President Vladimir Putin of the Russian Federation. Good afternoon, distinguished ladies, gentlemen, friends. I welcome all of you at the 8th International Forum, the Russian Energy Week. You are already having a discussion amongst yourselves, and you have a chance to familiarize yourselves with the positions of one another. It is hardly likely that I'll tell you something that you're not aware of, but I'll dwell on certain key points. Certainly, we are pleased to host in Moscow the heads of leading world companies, experts from the industry for a substantive, productive dialogue on developing the energy sector. This dialogue is of particular importance amid dynamic, profound shifts in the global market. And this is precisely this stage that our energy and service companies are at, as well as suppliers and consumers of energy resources and whole countries. In the course of my remarks, I will broach certain major trends of the modern energy sector, and I will certainly share our perspective on the challenges facing the global and the Russian energy sector. But we are also witnessing a deliberate dismantling of the world energy architecture, which is brought about by aggressive and rather pushy actions by certain Western elites. As you are aware, under the political pressure, many European countries have given up Russian energy resources. I pointed out before what this might result in for the European and Western countries themselves, for their economic and production capacities. We are witnessing the fallout of such actions in the EU itself. We see diminishing industrial outputs, rising prices, owing to more expensive oil and gas coming from beyond the ocean, as well as a lower competitiveness of the European goods and the European economy as a whole. According to Eurostat, the industrial output in the Eurozone in July this year is 1.2% lower than the average over 2021, and we see a continued slowdown, a continued decrease of industrial output, and the engine of EU growth, namely Germany in July, it decreased by 6.6% as compared to the average 2021 levels. Russia still retains the position of one of the leading oil producers, despite the malafide competition mechanisms used against us. We account for about 10% of the world oil production. This year we will have produced 510 million tons, which is 1% lower than last year. But I would like to draw attention to the fact that we are doing that in conformity with the OPEC Plus agreements. That is a voluntary cut. The Russian oil sector is working sustainably. It's preparing plans for the future. Our companies not only reliably supply our internal market through developing the processing of oil, but in the light of difficult external environment, they're also showing flexibility. They've managed to foster new channels for supplies and payments. In the past, the export of our oil and oil products mostly was oriented towards one single consumer, namely the EU, but right now the geographic range has expanded significantly as far as the world gas market is concerned. In that particular regard, the supply chains are shifting as well, and the reasons are objective. We see a steady increase in gas consumption in the Asia-Pacific, in the Middle East, and in Latin America, whereas in Europe, the gas demand is still at levels lower than 2019 because their industrial output is decreasing, so they don't need as much as they used to. It's as simple as that. So it might seem that the fact that certain European countries have given up Russian gas, the blow-up of Nord Streams, would have severed us from conventional markets. and dealt a blow to an important part of our energy sector. And indeed, we have to admit, at first our gas exports decreased somewhat, only to bounce back and start growing. It has not fully recovered, but the direction is evident. The move by the EU has only accelerated the shift in our priorities in favor of more promising, reliable clients. Countries know their interests and they act rationally based on those interests. At the same time, we are increasing our internal consumption of gas, which is of the utmost importance, in particular, and gas-based chemistry. There are facilities being built in the Volga region in Siberia, in the Russian Far East. We are also providing better supplies of gas to our settlements and cities. Over the last 5 years, we have built more than 100,000 kilometers of gas distribution networks, thereby propelling our level of gasification to almost 75%, and this level will only grow. To be more precise, the gasification level stands at 74.7% since 2019. It has grown by 6.1 percentage point. We're also continuing with the social gasification program over the last 4 years. Almost 1 million households have got access to pipeline gas, and we expect the number to grow by another 2 million in future. 1,393,000 plots have been connected to the gas distribution networks. 988,000, almost 989 connections has been performed. And I would also like to point out that Russia has unique sources of gas. We retain high level of production, but we have to work on this resource base and we have to replenish it, including through tight gas. Despite negative forecasts by certain experts, coal still holds a significant share in the world energy mix. But there are clear regional distinctions we can observe. Whilst Western markets are decreasing their coal demand, Asian countries are, on the contrary, increasing the consumption of coal. But of course, it all boils down to economic efficiency of coal-based generation. But given the global economic center of gravity shift towards the Asia-Pacific, we can expect the coal market to remain important, significant for decades to come. Just as any market, it can be cyclical, and right now coal producers are facing lower prices. But amid these conditions, we are supporting our companies and their staff. We are also helping them with the restructuring of their loans. I would like to ask the government to keep following this situation and help the businesses recalibrate support measures, but the coal industry itself should raise its competitiveness as well as efficiency. The second major global trend is the growing role of power generation. In the next 25 years, electricity generation is expected to double, and 85% of additional demand is gonna come outside the so-called developed economies and the countries of the global south, to be more precise.
Russian power grid is one of the largest in the world. Our generation facilities has a total installed capacity at almost 270 gigawatts. And this tremendous complex is working reliably and without malfunctions. I have already mentioned it that the Russian energy mix is one of the greenest in the world, and I'm sure that our Russian colleagues spoke about that. That means that the overwhelming percentage of power in Russia, that is 87%, is produced with minimal or zero carbon footprint. By that I mean natural gas and nuclear generation, renewables and hydropower. Our companies are implementing the green projects and long-term generation, not only in Russia but abroad as well. For example, Russian scientists, engineers and managers have implemented more than 400 projects in hydropower in 55 countries of the world. Rushydro, that is our leading company in the sphere, is building hydropower plants and water infrastructure by respecting environmental safety regulations and putting in place efficient and sustainable water usage. impressive experience has been accumulated by our another high-tech leader, that is Rosatom. It owns about 90% of the global NPP market. About 90%. 110 energy units of Russian design have been built around the world. Russia is the only country in the world that has the competences across the whole nuclear chain. And by building abroad, we are not just erecting facilities, but together with our partners, we are creating the future of the energy sector and related sectors of the country. We are shaping a solid national talent pool, scientific and technological foundation for development of whole countries. That is our method when we are building NPPs in Egypt, Bangladesh, and Turkey, and we intend to deepen our cooperation in nuclear power with global South countries and within BRICS. We're very active in this regard. Experts believe that nuclear energy would become one of the pillars of the future global energy mix. By 2050, the capacity of global NBPs will almost double. Within 15 years, Russia is to commission more than 29 gigawatts of capacity, of nuclear capacity, including small NPPs. And small NPPs is our unique project. Nothing parallels us in the world. Nuclear generation will be installed in the Far East and Siberia. Friends, moving on to the third feature of the modern energy sector, or rather the challenge that is facing the actors on this global market. By that I mean technological sovereignty of oil, gas, and other energy supplying countries. And I'm sure that you've spoken about that as well during your conference. We've seen how the Western elites overnight refused to service the equipment in Russia for the fuel sector. They officially declared that will not deliver on their commitments. They have proven yet again that they are unreliable partners and that their actions are directly tied with the political situation. And sometimes this political situation is being used for unsavory competition. We'll see that the commercial companies were forced to do that under the pressure from their ruling elites. Still, it's a cold hard fact that the Western technologies and equipment for the fuels and energy sector could become unavailable at any moment for geopolitical reasons. Unavailable not only for Russia, but for any other energy supplier that the West considers, someone in the West considers inconvenient competition or simply an uncooperative country. And everyone should keep that in mind. That is the reality of today. But I'm sure you all understand that fully well. That means that we need to actively shift the status of country energy suppliers, shifting from purchasing the equipment toward technological leadership. By shaping a fully fledged energy sovereignty at the national level, starting from production and processing of resources, moving on to the transportation of already produced goods. You know that Russian energy sector has already deployed the process of achieving technological leadership. In essence, that's a powerful engine of the whole Russian industry and science. Our authorities, energy companies, enterprises, and research institutions are working together, discussing these issues and agreeing on specific steps. Actually, it is here on the margins of the Energy Week, the Coordination Council on Import Substitution in Oil and Gas sector has taken place. You know, what's happening here? I have been talking to our companies. First, initially, I have to admit, we were doing reverse engineering, but quite soon we started to move on from there. You know, sometimes they're meeting with some of their partners in Europe, for example. What's happening there? They have to cut down on their personnel, and our market was one of the main markets where they used to send their high-tech products. They had to abandon our market meaning that their production becomes cost ineffective. They have to cut down on their personnel. They're losing their technologies. In turn, our specialists are developing technologies, and they're becoming technological leaders because we can produce homegrown technologies at a cost-effective level. And we're starting to get partners from around the world that are purchasing this equipment from Russian companies now. They used to buy it in Europe. That was yesterday. But today, they're buying from Russia. So what did they do? So simply, like in that anecdote, someone buys a ticket just to spite the train driver and does not get on that train later. That is the reality of today. Domestic services are already covering the main demand for boron in Russia. We have increase in manufacturing of production equipment and chemicals. We're introducing our homegrown technological solutions in servicing deposits and infrastructure. Many of the things that I've mentioned before was previously done by foreign companies. Now it is being done by our specialists. Russia has tremendous engineering potential and serious scientific and practical experience in our fuel and energy sector, which has been time-tested, that they have proven their efficiency in harsh climate and inclement weather. We have competence, experience, and best practices in order to achieve progress even in the most complex sector of energy landscape and to recover tight reserves, which is especially important for the oil industry. And we'll be doing that not only independently, but also together with friendly countries that are fully well aware of the geopolitical risks. Russia is providing comprehensive technological cooperation of energy-producing countries free from sanctions and foreign pressure. A true partnership based on exchange of experience, knowledge, creating industrial alliances, and results of such a partnership will benefit everyone who's taking part in that work. You know, as for equipment, I've just spoken about it. And I was talking about nuclear power. And here, Russia is an absolute leader. We're independent from anyone. Everything done in the nuclear energy is fully implemented in Russia. And that will be the case for all types of energy sectors. In oil and gas equipment, the same will happen.
Subscribe to Oneindia and never miss an update. Download the Oneindia app now.